Hi all, I'm Shan and I have Kishan with me from the beach.
Yeah, yeah,
Welcome to Free Float,
yeah,
and we'll keep this short and sweet because Kishan has some serious sunbathing. So,
yeah. So,
so
so,
Kishan,
so
can
Shram,
you start with an intro?
yeah, so we spoke about like momentum and value, right? Like filtering out value stocks, and then and then taking them when there's some momentum in them. So you're not like endlessly waiting for the first stock to move because if you were holding ITC as a value stock, I mean, you would be holding it for the last 5 years or the last 2 or 3 years without any, it's down what 40% or so, right? So you want to hold value stocks when they're moving up, I asked you, would that make sense? And you said, you've done some experiments with this, and it didn't work out.
Right. So the biggest problem with the relative value is basically adverse selection as the market keeps moving higher and stocks in general keep getting more and more expensive. So you end up with a portfolio of stocks that nobody wants even in a bull market.
Right.
So when the market kind of reverses, these stocks crash even harder than other stocks. So the whole attempt was, trying to figure out, if there is a better way um, to invest in, value stocks um, that doesn't leave you holding the bag, at the top of the market. So we tried different things. So the post,
Yeah.
apart from looking at, actual experience, also presents a couple of back tests. So it attempts to sort of create a band around market valuation and says, what if you invest only if the market valuation is within, for example, one standard deviation of historical averages. So
Right.
unfortunately, what happens even here is that there are like, yes, sure, on a gross return basis you are beating, unquote, beating the market or beating your benchmark. But
Right.
once you consider transaction costs and taxes, because this thing will give you, will attract a 15% tax on short-term gains, right? So
Yeah.
now, after you consider that, I'm not really sure if it's feasible. It works in reducing the depth of the drawdown.
Right.
So, you're not, facing a scenario where you're down 60%, which is what the value buy and hold does. But at the same time, you're not there, in the recovery phase, because you're saying I'm going to cut off uh, if the market is very expensive. But unfortunately, what happens is most of the gains occur when the market is expensive. It's pure multiple expansion that
Right.
drives the market higher. And if you miss out on that, then then your overall, right, over a 10-year period, your overall returns, are nothing to write home about. And in terms of mixing value and momentum, the biggest problem there is that momentum is such a strong factor that most of your returns is coming from the momentum factor, not from the value factor. So you're still left with a situation where you're buying junkier stocks because of your value filter, as the market goes higher. And at the same time, a rebalancing frequency, right? So you mentioned, buying ITC and keeping it for 3 years. That is still a better outcome than rebalancing value stocks, frequently. Because what happens is, you know, you want to really ride the one or two stocks that actually go higher. And frequent rebalancing, what it does is it constantly keeps selling the winners and buying the losers. And you're not getting the that out the returns by given by those outsized stocks, right? So sometimes if you let the winners run, it may end up becoming 80% of your portfolio. That is fine in value investing. But if you keep rebalancing it, and if you have 20 stocks, if you keep rebalancing it and bringing it back to 5%, then you're not getting that benefit.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Because, I mean, I would have thought that like the would like to perform, just buying stocks and like more.
Right. So, like value disciples keep pointing out to, Ben Graham, right? His
Yeah.
whole thing, none of his investments made as much money as Geico, right? So that one dinner that he had made him a
And
legend.
made it. Yeah.
But if he kept, rebalancing that and selling off Geico and buying but stocks, nobody would have heard of him at 5%. Um, you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And like even stuff like like American Express and stuff.
right. So
Like
you
like American Express. Go.
right.
So
So
you would think that.
that's yeah. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Rakesh.
So you would also think that like if today the way we define value, like we've spoken about this many times, right? The way we define value also should change because what is valuable in say 10, 15 years from now is would have been a lot different than what's available say uh, say 20 years ago. You a good example, you know, uh, if you see, the biggest financial companies like Mastercard, Visa, it's payment systems rather than banks itself, and that shows you where the world is heading. So while banks might be cheaper, cash to book, like historically, practice would banks, be even needed, say, 20 years from now. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe you'll have entire, peer-to-peer lend with no middleman, which is the bank, involved. So, I mean, the world is changing. So, what is valuable today, what do you think is, undervalued today might actually be like a falling knife. If you have
Right. I mean, that's a classic value trap, right? You
yeah,
know, the the fundamental bet you're doing by a quote unquote value stock is that soon after you buy it, other investors will look at it and say, "Hey, this is undervalued," and start buying it, right? So the problem is that what if you're not as smart as you think you are. Your
right.
value picks can actually truly be rubbish stocks that nobody ever really wants to touch.
Right.
And especially in cases where you know promoters are not as forthcoming, not as honest, right?
Right.
So most of these value bets, make sense only when you look at the terminal value or the liquidation value. And what if the liquidation value is zero or extremely negative because of fraud
Right.
or of some other contingent liability that the promoter has not disclosed, or one of those things. This sort of cigar butt investing or deep value investing makes sense in a against a regulatory backdrop where you have this bankruptcy laws, that takes speedy action and and unlock that value for you. Failing that, all it's a massive bet on the promoter being honest.
Right.
So those things come into the picture as well. But even if it's these things are straight arrows, the larger problem is, if you're buying based on some balance sheet metric, then your selling should also be based on that balance sheet metric. It should not be based on price.
Right.
So if you buy something thinking it is half book, and you think the fair value is one book, then the minute it hits or crosses that one book, you should start thinking about how to sell it. And the problem is, what
Right.
if that one times book is on its way to become two times book? Then you're
Right.
kind of losing the price momentum that occurs between that 1x and 2x. Which could be pure multiple explanation. There could be no changes in fundamentals at all. It could be just the market driving it higher.
Right.
But if you miss it,
Right.
then your portfolio is going to lag there as well. So I would say, value investing, whether you look at, no matter what ratio you look at, whether you think, if you have a magic way to look at intangibles and so on, at the end of the day, I think it's a very qualitative assessment. And unlike momentum, which can be completely automated and just letting it fly, I'm not sure you can do that with the value. And even if you do it with value,
Right.
you should not pretend that this is the Gramian way of doing it, or the Buffett style of value investing. It is just some
Uh,
quantitative thing that you're doing, looking at balance sheet
right.
metrics. And I don't think you should conflate that with the
Well,
traditional value investing philosophy.
yeah. Yeah, I get it.
All right, so guys, we will leave Kishan to his sunbathing, and we will catch you again next week. So until then, enjoy and have a good time.
Yeah, bye.